In this tutorial, I'll show you how to achieve top marks for the design development stage of your D&T NEA project in a really short space of time. The development stage can be such a difficult part of the design process, but hopefully by showing you how I manage it, it'll help to remove some of those barriers that are stopping you from making progress. In this first of a two-part tutorial, I'll be sketching a range of design variations, followed by some more construction-based sketches, and finally I'll move on to developing my design into a computer-aided design model. In order to have more flexibility with page layout later on, I'm choosing to sketch on A4 paper rather than A3. I'll then scan my sketches and drop them into my portfolio where I'll lay them out and annotate. To save time, I've drawn a template that I can quickly trace. This means that I don't have to think about aspects like design proportions or position on the page. I'll start with some variations of the same idea, just altering some of the features such as the shape of the sides and the lid. I'm just using an HB pencil to lay out my sketch, with a bit of crating so that proportions are fairly accurate. Then I outline with a fine line pen and finish with a thicker pen. For now, I'm not going to add colour because it's often very time consuming and not always necessary. I'll make a judgment later on as to whether colour is needed. As mentioned, I don't need to worry about where the sketches go right now, as I'm planning to separate them later on after I've placed them on my PowerPoint slide. You may have noticed that I'm not being particularly careful with the quality of my sketches. Again, this is to save time. Remember that the objective is to communicate your ideas rather than produce beautifully presented sketches. Plus, you'll be surprised how much a well laid out page can compensate for a lack of drawing quality. That said, I have taken a little extra care with the more construction-based drawings, for example, when communicating how parts might fit together or how a lid might open using hinges. This is because some of the lines I'm drawing are very close together and some of the components, such as the hinges on the lid, are quite small. For now, I think I have enough sketches, so I'm ready to move them over to PowerPoint. I'm going to do this simply by taking a photo of my sketches and uploading them to my Mac. Here are a few tips. Lay out the drawings on a flat surface in a well-lit area. When taking the photo, you'll need to be about 1 meter away and then use the zoom on your camera to remove any distortion caused by the wide-angle lens. Most modern phones have an optical zoom of 2 to 3 times, so aim for this amount when taking the photo. In editing mode, I've turned up the exposure until the background is pure white. Then I've also turned up black point control. Finally, I've set the noir filter to get rid of any colour the photo might have picked up. Now that I have the image on my Mac, I can simply drop it into my PowerPoint. I'm now going to crop it down to one sketch, then make multiple copies, sliding the cropped image around underneath to reveal each sketch. In PowerPoint, you can set the background to transparent. This is useful when positioning sketches as it prevents the edges of a white box covering other sketches. Positioning the sketches can be quite a slow process. Decide which sketches should sit together, as well as which have the most value. Determining a sketch's value tells you how big or prominent it should be on the page. For example, I have 2 sketches of the same design. Only one shows the lid closed and one shows it open. The version with the lid closed will be larger, as this is how the product would usually look. The version with the lid open is simply trying to illustrate how it works. I've already communicated the idea, so this additional view can be scaled down. Using techniques like this will help you draw the reader's attention to the right places and will also just make your pages look more dynamic. Once I'm happy with the position of my sketches, I'll start to add text boxes in the empty spaces, which I'll use to annotate my designs. Right now, I'm not too concerned about the content. I'd rather just have everything in the right place and have the pages nicely laid out. This gives me one less thing to think about and helps me to split the process up into smaller, more manageable steps. I never particularly enjoy adding annotation, but when I know it's the only thing left to do and all I have to do is just keep typing, the thought of that spurs me on to get the pages finished. It's always useful to have an introductory paragraph at the start. I usually put this in a larger font, a bit like the headline of the page. Then I'll have smaller text for the main bulk of annotation. I also like to add a few labels, only they're not really labels, more just a way to highlight the main points. As mentioned, I'll update this later on. Naturally, development should evolve from sketches into CAD models and prototyping as you get closer to producing a final design. In this video, however, I'm just focusing on the transition from sketching to computer-aided design. You'll be able to see how I use traditional modelling and prototyping in part 2. On the next slide, I want to make it clear which elements of my designs I'm continuing to develop, so I've actually reused some sketches to help me do that. Again, it's a time saver and just helps tell the story. For my CAD modelling, I'm using SketchUp, specifically SketchUp for Web, which is one of the online free versions they offer. In part 2, I'll also be using TechSoft 2D Design, which I've found most schools in the UK tend to use. Bear in mind that this isn't a how to use SketchUp tutorial. I'm just trying to show you how I would develop my design ideas. However, I do have a couple of tips. Firstly, try to make your model the same way you would make it in reality, or at least as close to reality as possible. Draw to scale and turn each part into a component. You'll be able to use the same model for an exploded diagram and even a third angle orthographic projection. It'll make it so much easier to change individual parts, either reshaping or replacing the part completely. It also means that once it's time to make the product, you'll have a much clearer idea of how it's actually going to be manufactured, what parts you'll need, the material dimensions, and how everything will be joined together. In fact, there are a whole host of benefits, but essentially, it will prove to be a huge time saver. Secondly, don't forget to take regular screenshots as you progress. These will provide excellent evidence of development. My preference for screenshots is to set the background to white and hide the axes, so that I just have the model on my development pages, without the extra background elements. However, you might want the whole window to show what software you used. I like to do this when using TechSoft. Consider the fact that you're trying to communicate aspects of your design development rather than show a step-by-step of how you made your model. The difference might not be clear to you while you're developing your model, but my advice would be to just get in the habit of taking screenshots. Then you can decide later on which ones to use. Here you can see a variety of screenshots I've taken as I've continued to develop my product. I've simply dumped them onto the page so that I can focus on development rather than how to lay out my page. Finally, it's time to annotate your work. You'll have noticed that I put all text in red. For me, red text means that it still needs to be written or edited. Once I've rewritten a text box, I'll change it to black. That way, I know what still needs to be completed and I won't miss a text box by mistake. Unfortunately, I don't have many tips for what to write about. This really needs to come from you. Just remember that you're trying to communicate all of your design decisions as well as justify how your designs meet the design brief and specification. In fact, the quality of your specification is a key factor in determining the quality of your designs and annotation. I find that students who don't write a good specification usually go on to produce ideas that are far too generic and have no specific purpose. Because they lack any real thought, then there really isn't anything to write about. So make sure you produce a good spec, then refer to it as you develop your ideas, add plenty of detail, and you'll find that you have plenty to say. And again, justify. That means explain why you've chosen that shape, added that feature, or why you're using that specific material. Lastly, don't be afraid to critique. This is evidence of evaluation, so state what might not work or what still needs to be improved. That's it for this video. In part 2, I'll show you the final stage where I incorporate evidence of prototyping, complete the development stage, and produce a final design. I hope you found this useful. If you have, then please give it a like and share with others who might benefit from the tutorial. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know in the comments and I'll try to cover in a future video. Thanks for watching.